Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're getting started in just a few minutes, just waiting for some more people to arrive. Morning to those who've just joined us. Just give it a couple of minutes for a few more people to filter through, and then we'll get started. All right, Marlon, if you'd like to take us away.
All right. Good morning. Happy Friday, and welcome to all of those that are back with us. It is another exciting Friday at the CX community event for North America. For those that I know, it's great to see you again. Look forward to hearing from you in the chat. And for those of you that I don't know, my name is Marlon Hardy. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Worldwide Technology. 26 years in the industry of CX, also in the service provider industry. And it's a wonderful privilege to be partnered up with Archaic Global for these events and to see the community growing. Today, we have an amazing topic that we're going to go through, talking about balancing automation, technology, and the human connection, and a marvelous panel that you're going to love hearing from. Before I get into introducing the panel to you, I'd like to also hand over a few topics of housekeeping. And Rich, if you could go to the next slide. So here's our agenda. We're going through our welcome. You're going to hear the introduction of our panels here in just a second. And then we'll also have some Q&A at the end. And we'll encourage you to put as many questions as you can, and we'll try to address those in the chat towards the end of the conversation. Just from a housekeeping perspective, if you could keep yourself on mute until we open up the floor, that'll make sure that the discussion is uninterrupted and flows nicely. Rich, next slide. Rich is our Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Archaic Global. I'd like to hand over to Rich to say a few words. Rich.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Marlon. Great to see so many friendly faces and people again in the community. It's going to be a great session today. And just before we start, I just want to remind people why we're here. It's the Customer Centricity World Series. As quite a lot of you know, anybody who's joining this community for the first time, welcome. You are most welcome to join us, and we hope to see you more and more. So we've got the Customer Centricity World Series. Thank you, Jeff. We've got the Customer Centricity World Series coming up, and here are the key dates. So anybody who's thinking about entering, you've got until the 13th of October to enter your registration, your entry. And then we've got the finalist announcement, which will be happening on the 17th of November, ahead of the event on the 7th and 8th of May. For those of you who'd like to join us in person, that will be in Dubai in the UAE. For those of us who'd like to continue to join us online, again, we'll be having a hybrid event, so you're more than welcome to join us from the comfort of your own home. Some fantastic partners from all around the world. Some of you will recognize that bottom right one, CXM at MSU. We're delighted to have them support us as well. Our scoring model, for those who don't know, is endorsed by the University of Westminster in the UK, and our awards process is also certified by Customer Institute. So you can be rest assured that your entries will be scored by our independent expert judges very, very fairly. I'm very excited to announce today's sponsor, who's brought this session together for us, which is Evolve. And they're a consulting business and technology firm headquartered in our spiritual home of Dallas, Texas, which is apparently very hot and sweaty right now. But they're recognized for their partnership and expertise by Snowflake, AWS, Microsoft, and other industry-leading cloud solutions. And their end-to-end approach leverages the emerging technology and automation solutions to emphasize and complement human connection. And of course, what we're all here today to learn about, our customer-centric values. So enlisting their expertise helps their clients avoid and navigate common business challenges in an agile manner. And we're delighted to be joined today by some of their friends as well. So Marlon, I'm going to hand back to you and then we can get started with today's session.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. And congratulations on getting married. I agree. So the topic for today, again, balancing automation, technology, and the human connection, topic that's very near and dear to my heart and near and dear to our top 4 panelists. I can't wait for you to meet them. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Maybe we can go from right to left. Adam, we'll start with you.
Thank you. My name is Adam Colclasure. I work at SoFi as a senior director and head of our risk infrastructure team. What that means is ultimately my team works with a lot of data, a lot of decisioning, implementation, credit bureau reporting data as well. So we really get to the heart of the customer and understanding their journey within that data, and making sure that we have the right credit mix, fraud mix, collections mix in the world to help our bank thrive and succeed.
Thank you, Adam. Margaret Ann.
Get off mute here. I'm Margaret Ann Heyland, or MA. I am a marketing and customer experience consultant for Evolve. I have 25 plus years in the financial services industry. Worked for companies such as USAA, Mass Mutual, American National Bank, and Ally Bank. And my passion and expertise is really in understanding the customer's needs and emotion at every touch point, and then using that to build and enhance their experiences through empathy and technology. So super excited about this topic today.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret Ann, and appreciate the sponsorship for today. Amy?
Good morning. I'm Amy Hockman, the Vice President of Digital Experience at Patelco Credit Union. My career has included stints at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Schwab, and now Patelco. My roles have been focused on product management and even included managing the design team at Schwab in its early days when it was less than a dozen people. So it's a little bit bigger now. I love this topic and I am happy to be here today.
Oh, we're glad to have you, Amy, and thank you so much. Great career. Bill, how about you?
Hi, I'm Bill Wade, and I'm the CIO at Independent Financial, and I have a background in both the financial industry at various banks as CIO, and then also outside the financial industry, inside of Gold's Gym, Omni Hotels, as well as a few other areas. I have a sketchy background in police work at the start of my career, so I've done a lot of different things, but in total I have about 13 or so years as a CIO in various industries, and looking forward to chatting about this topic. We got some unique things going on.
Bill, thanks for joining us today, and love your background as well. You know, as we think about the technology here, and no accident that we have several facets of the financial services organization here. As we look at the verticals, financial services is definitely one of the leaders in technology adoption applied to CX. But you know what I thought we'd do is, before we jump into the discussion, how about if we define these terms? Don't you love buzzwords? So maybe we could just start by defining human connection, what we mean by automation, what's involved with technology, and think about, in your answer to the panelists, why are these concepts significant to business today? And then how will their importance adapt in the future? So Marianne, could we start with you?
Yeah. So from Evolve's position, I mean, our mission statement is really to improve the world through human connection, but we're a technology consulting firm. So from our point of view, balancing the technology automation with the human connection is really vital in helping our customers to deliver exceptional customer experiences, right? So automation can provide the efficiency, cost reduction, and speed, and the human interactions bring the empathy and understanding and personalization that customers are looking for. But automation and technology without human connections really makes for a very kind of sterile experience. And so we feel that businesses that can strike the balance between these will be able to create the meaningful experiences and build trust and customer relationships. And those are the ones that are going to be set up for success in the future.
Thanks, Marianne. How about for the rest of the panelists? Do you agree with those definitions? How would you respond to that question?
My immediate
would
thought
agree.
was, go ahead. Yeah, ditto.
Ditto. Bill, how about you? I heard you start.
Yeah, we're very focused on it in the financial industry right now, and I'm sure my colleague from SoFi will agree. We're in a battle for deposits, and making ourselves unique and more adaptable to what the client demands are is going to make us far more sticky, and people will be willing to maintain their deposit base with us. So that's a lot of what we're focused on.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd say the human connection to a financial services is paramount. That ultimately helps establish trust, longevity of that customer relationship, and ensuring that you're able to meet them when they have a need. We want them to come back to our financial institution, and when they do that, the reason they would do that is because of a good experience and that human connection.
Yeah, can't be divided, can it? Amy, you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, trust is paramount in financial services. And I guess I'd also add as the feeling in some, like when you're dealing with, when people are working with their money, there's a lot of emotion, right? And so that ability to talk to someone, validate, is critical.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. We're talking backgrounds in financial services, but for those that are here in the audience that are not from financial services, it's the same human connection. I think the panel would agree if we're talking about healthcare or we're talking about retail transformation, those are basic principles of applying technology and maintaining that human connection. So love those answers. Let me ask this. Got digital experience, we've got consulting, we've got information technology, data science on the phone as well. As you think about these technologies, automation, technology in general, are there any major hesitations or problems with implementing technology in your various areas that come top of mind? Is there any obstacles that you guys struggle with?
I'll start with that. So we at Evolve, I mean, we work across many industries, just like you mentioned, Marlon. And there's challenges with, are we automating the right things? Are we picking the right technology, the security around it, proving ROI? Is leadership aligned, right? But for me, from the customer experience side of it, the biggest resistance that I see is the resistance to change from either employees or customers. And, you're changing the way they're used to working. You're changing the way that they're going to need to now adapt to doing doing things. So, you're maybe introducing new technology or new screens or a new app, or you may be removing technology that they have been using, especially in financial services. I mean, sometimes those processes have been in place for years and years and years. So it's a really scary time for employees. And so employees, sometimes they hear automation and the first thing they think is, oh my God, my job's going away. I'm going to lose my job. And then sometimes customers hear digital and automation and they think, I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody. So for me, that's one of the biggest hurdles had to overcome when we're designing new experiences. And so I have found kind of getting in front of it or involving the people that the change is going to happen to, whether it's interviewing them, with its frontline employees, I like to interview them and just say, hey, what's going on? What are your pain points? What would you automate? What would make your life easier? And that helps with kind of figuring out what to automate, but then also having them help test things or be involved with the RFI or choosing the technology. And then I think once they see how their job's going to change and that it's going to not necessarily go away, but it may, you know, their life's going to be easier. They're going to be spending less time doing manual things. You'll start to get that buy-in and actually have some your advocates, because they will actually see the need and will actually help make that transition a little easier. So for me, that's one of the biggest problems that I've always had to deal with.
Appreciate that. How about anybody else? Let me ask, Bill, don't want to put you on the spot, but as a CIO implementing technology, how do you get business buy-in for technology to drive a CX experience or a specific brand experience? Do you find a struggle with that?
No, actually, I would say that they're probably driving me more than I'm driving them right now. We have more sophisticated clients in the corporate side that we're trying to deal with. And when, for instance, there's been title companies who've come in and said, you know, we're very interested in your treasury products, but we first want to talk to your IT department and see if they have an API strategy, and we'll be able to connect to our systems. And the reason being, in a title company, they may have 20 different banking relationships. They don't want 20 sign-ons. They don't want to have to train 20 plus people on all the various user interfaces at 20 different banks. They want you to utilize your API capabilities to integrate with their system to where they have a wire button within their software. So the UX control is moving that back to the client in many cases. And in our case, we're leveraging an API type strategy to where whatever you want to do banking in, we'll adapt to it. So that's for more sophisticated clients. So they're coming in and demanding that kind of thing from us. The less sophisticated clients, we always will have some level of user interface and UX experience, whether it be online or mobile. But most of that is on the retail side. Many of the corporate clients we have are trying to move away, because nowadays the name of the game is dividing your deposits across banks, trying to protect yourself. And so you're going to have a lot of banking relationships sometimes in a business sense. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. Amy, as a digital officer around experience, lots of apps, lots of technologies, what struggles do you have?
Yeah, as it's funny, Wires is a great example. In our case, we're implementing them online, and we've been working with and doing all the things that Margaret Ann was talking about, of connecting and understanding pain points, et cetera. And it's interesting. I think the watchword here is like communication through the whole process, because you get everybody online, and again, understanding you're changing people's jobs, and some of it's to benefit. They've got too much work, right? So in our case, nobody's worried about losing a job. They'd just be happy to have less work. But when you take out a tool they've always used, and even though you're replacing it with other tools, it's, helping them understand, no, this is covered in these ways. You can let go of that. And so it's been it's an interesting process, especially at Patelco, where we have a lot, some really long-term employees in our operations department. And so these are big changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're all seeing similar things. Adam, do you agree with that? What are you seeing from your perspective?
I see it a little differently. As customers, and our difference is, from SoFi is we're more of that digital consumer bank. So, when we're looking at technology, we're looking at the right type of partner, and usually we're buying technology. A lot of times we're building and developing that. However, when it comes to fraud, as an example, we want to continue to remove friction from the customer's experience. However, we have to balance how much of that friction we remove with the understanding and indicators of fraud as they come through. Because it's not just the individual that's applying, it's actually the identity associated with that individual too. Is it really that individual? And so, making sure that your technology stack is scalable and flexible to be able to incorporate new data sources, and look, people, the industry changes. What may be great now may not be great in the future. So you need to have that flexibility to overlay additional vectors of information and data. And so as you do that, that's the kind of trust that you're getting not only from the applicant or the individual that's coming through or logging in and trying to do banking, but you're also protecting those that aren't even within your ecosystem that might be in that ecosystem at some point.
It's amazing. I think coming at it from 4 different angles, including the consulting and advisory perspective, is amazing, because while we're all saying similar things, we're also saying very different things about technologies that are so vast, touch so many different things. And I'm going to come back to your comment around security here in a second, Adam, because that's pivotal for every piece of technology that's touching our business as well. Let me ask this. I want to come back to automation specifically, and it's, Margaret Ann talked about earlier. You hear the term automation, people think, okay, my job's being eliminated. Maybe I could point this towards you to start the conversation, Amy, if that would be okay. As you think about automation, how do you strike the balance between leveraging the right types of automation, enough automation to drive efficiency, but you still maintain a strong connection with that human element? How would you approach that?
Absolutely. So for us, it's really about this. It's about the choice of the customer, right? Whether they want to engage with a person or whether they want to engage with tech. But my goal on the automation side is to take all the things that are sort of basics, right? So make it easy, make it fast, submitting an application, uploading documents, getting status, like all of that stuff. People, if they want to self-serve, they should be able to self-serve. And then you save the human connection for those people who want to self-serve for the moments that matter. And so you're looking at the lending process, the calculator online, right? I've got a calculator, I'm all set. It says I can afford the loan. Great, but then can I? Right? So I want to talk to someone. I want that reassurance. Did I look at this right? What else should I be considering? Those sorts of things. So for me, our ideal state is where a member who wants to use technology can use technology all the way through, and they never hit that hurdle where, oh no, now you need to fax something, right? Or come into the branch. But if they want to talk to somebody, they can at those critical moments. And I'm really proud of the work we've done at Patelco to make that easy access and touch points for the moments that matter. So we have a virtual branch in addition to our physical branches. It's essentially a full service branch except for cash. We really can't do that online. And it's available real time or by appointment to meet via video. And our customers love it. They love the convenience and connection. And then the thing we didn't anticipate as we created it was the ability, where you need to have a banking conversation with family members in different geographies. That makes it so easy, right? You can't come into the branch with your son who's across the country in college, but you can jump on a video call with him to work through whatever it is, that banking issue you want to work through. So possibilities are endless. For us, it's about the human and tech to deliver on our mission of financial well-being.
Adam, what about from a digital bank perspective?
Yeah, I think, first of all, let's just all recognize that really connecting with the individual, the human connection, the customer experience is a hard rubrics to solve, right? Like if it was easy, nobody would be on this this webinar listening to the conversation, first of all. So there's many different factors and variables that play into this. I think there are in terms of like balancing automation and with the customer as well as with your employee, there's multiple sides of this. So as a digital bank with SoFi, we try to make sure that we're removing friction and providing ample communication as much as possible. That communication is in, can be the copy on the screen, an email afterwards, a text, a notification, right? People want to live and breathe in different formats and venues, and they all prefer different things. So it's trying to strive the balance of that. It's also about having that technology and the automation that allows somebody to come in one channel and finish in another channel. Like, that's just the society we live in today. Nobody wants to have to be stuck in one particular area. But I think really it's, listening to the customer is super important. That's what's one aspect of this rubrics. Getting in and really listening to all the positive and the negative. Being able to identify what they like, what they don't like, and really trying to understand that from everywhere. We recently had an employee notice a Facebook post about a mishap that they've had, and we looked at that and we thought, well, that can't be right, and we dug into it and really tried to understand the problem. And just that kind of information, whether it be a direct complaint or just a social media post, that's important. And so it's good to take in and understand and listen to them, but it's also good to understand the data. Let's understand what they're not telling us. As they tell us a lot, but there's also things that in an experience, where are they dropping off from the application flow? Where's the abandonment points? Where's that friction come in? Why are they leaving the accounts? Those are the things that we also have to really dig into and really break down to understand where we need to make improvements in the overarching customer experience to really grab that connection. The piece that I want to make sure that we're highlighting as well is that, and I think Amy alluded to this earlier, is that the automation that we're looking to improve is not necessarily customer facing all the time. That's a lot of times in our back office, in our own systems. How can we remove friction from, say, the call center? Even though we're a digital bank, we have a call center. And so can we streamline the experience of an agent to, instead of having 5 screens, go down to 1 screen where they get all of their information? Does it serve the right information to that agent to be able to serve the customer as they're calling in and meet their needs? Right. So that kind of automation is it's not always just, hey, how are we automating the customer experience? That automation also is internal. Are we increasing our handle time? Are we able to get to that next call faster? Those are things that play a pivotal role in ultimately trying to solve this rubrics.
Such a great answer, Adam, and seeing a lot of feedback here in the chat around what you've said, and several of you have echoed around the employee automation as well. Hey, here's one question I want to interject real quick from Shelley. Thank you, Shelley. She asks, how have you balanced the need for customer-driven requirements with internally driven product desires to fill the next release with cool things or business-focused changes? I'll open that up to the panel. Anybody got an answer for how would you address that? It's a good question.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it just one more time, just to?
Yeah, so Shelley says, how have you balanced the need for customer-driven requirements with internally driven product desires to fill the next release?
Well, I'll jump in. I'll let Bill take this one. Bill's got a lot more experience in this space than I do. So, okay.
Well, I think they're connected greatly. I mean, we don't necessarily want to try and contemplate internally every customer experience that they desire. We don't want to just try and think things up. We're always going to take their feedback. So they drive what experience we focus on. And so we're going to listen to the customer. We'll do that through relationships in the field where people know, or people in our branches, or some of our relationship managers from the corporate side. They come back and say, hey, look, here's some pain points. Here's some things that the customers are telling us, and we need to find ways to get around that. We also look at our competition and understand what are they doing? What is the experience they may have? What is the product they may have? And we let that drive it. And I think it's a lot less bright ideas from internal people as it is listening to our customer and making sure we understand what their demands are and trying to adapt to the ones we think are probably going to be the highest level of acceptance and demand across our entire customer base. You've got to rule some out. You can't do everything. And so that's probably my best answer if I'm understanding the question completely. That's what I would say.
Great answer. Thanks, Bill. Margaret, Ann,
Yeah,
from
I
a
agree.
consulting perspective- Go ahead. There you go.
No, I agree totally with what Bill is saying. It's really listening to your customers. A lot of time, what Adam was saying, looking at the data, looking at what they're not telling you, but really looking at that voice of the customer, looking at social media, looking at where are their pain points, and looking at competition and not your competition. Sometimes companies that are outside of your industry are doing some really cool things that can transfer over to your industry. I always think Amazon has ruined everybody for getting things quickly. And no matter what you're ordering or where you're ordering it from, if you can't get it same day or the next day, I mean, it's really disappointing. So I think I agree with both. I agree with what Bill had said.
Margaret Ann, I'm worse. I want it in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with all of you. And, to your point, sometimes the customer is the employee, that frontline employee, right? Listening to what they're experiencing on the front line is great insight into what priorities are that the customer may not be saying to us as an organization. Hey, let me come back to you, Adam.
The other thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Marlon, I just wanted to add just one more thing. I mean, your customers, anywhere they have had a good customer experience, that's your competition. So it's no longer just the industries within your own industry that are your competition. It's anywhere your customer has had a really good customer experience or a cool thing is what they are now expecting from other companies. So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Hey, let me come back to stay with automation, but come back to Adam for a second. Adam, you touched a lot on implementing modernized technology as a digital bank and all of the data that goes into and flows through this modernized technology. How does security play a concern, and how do you address security to make sure that there's no violation, there's governance across all data sources? How does that impact your adoption of technology?
I mean, security is paramount. Again, that requires a lot of dedication in general, and as well as understanding what you're building and how someone would interact with that, right? So with the data is not just what a customer inputs. It's what we as a bank might get permissible purpose to go obtain elsewhere, and how do we handle that data as we use that data to help remove that friction from their experience, right? And so, the security is paramount. I don't even think customers, when they come to a bank, I think it is an implied. There's not a let me make sure you're secure. It's an implied expectation going forward. So I think that's paramount. But it's not just paramount within your ecosystem. You also have to understand and be diligent with the suppliers and the alternative data that you bring in, and are those individuals or those companies also handling their data appropriately? Are they doing the right things there? Are they following the regulations in their governance practice? If a customer wants to remove their data, can we seamlessly remove that across the entire ecosystem? Those are the things that again are I wouldn't say complicating, but they're factors that go into delivering this experience in the future.
I totally agree with that. I'd love to pull Amy into this as well as your designing experiences, along with Adam's comment. Is security a hindrance to what you're designing as as the next experience or something evolutionary that you want to drive? Is security a hindrance to you?
No, and it's interesting as I joined Patelco just a couple of years ago. We our info security and fraud roles were shifting, and our new fraud guy is my best friend, right? Because of that friction aspect, right? We work really closely together to think about how do we protect and protect our members and protect Patelco while but not create a ton of friction. And so I think these things, and again, it goes back to trust, right? Without trust, we're nothing. And so if we can't, protect our members, so I don't, in this particular case, I don't see this as a hindrance, and but more as a opportunity.
Love that. Love that. That's a good best friend to have. Good best friend to have. Hey, let me go back to Margaret Ann here, and from your perspective, working across multiple industries, can you provide some examples of some organizations or some other industries that have successfully found that balance between automation, the human connection, and other technologies?
Oh gosh, yeah, I think the manufacturing industry, I think they have been like the forefront of automation. When I think of, I had the privilege about 9 years ago to tour the Toyota Tundra factory in San Antonio, and it was amazing. I mean, they had the robotics doing very repetitive things, but then it was integrated with the humans along the assembly line. The way they did their inventory within the factory, and then just the cool things they did for their employees. I mean, there were exercise rooms, and they thought about, just how their workstations and the clothes that they wore, so they didn't scratch anything, and it was just clean. And they had, it was amazing. So I think, they've been on the forefront of automation for a long time. The companies that I think really, pre-pandemic and now, I think retail has done amazing things. When you think about when the shops were closing down, and they have really thought of new ways for their customers to shop. I mean, they stepped it up online with web applications or their online stores. The way they automated their inventory, you can see, oh, there's 4 in stock, and if it's not at this store, I can get it at this store. I can, even in things like Home Depot, you can self-checkout, but you can order and pay for it online and pick it up in the locker. So you don't even really have to see anybody if you don't want to. And then also I think of like Sephora, who their stores, you were not allowed to try on makeup. They took away, those samples, and they created an app where you could upload a picture and try on makeup with automated through the app. So I think retail really kind of picked it up a notch with balancing the technology, the innovation, and then how do they redesign their stores to make that shopping experience. And then the other one that I think is restaurants. I think sometimes when you call and you're making reservations with restaurants, you're actually talking to a chat bot, or you're talking to a bot that's actually taking those reservations, and it's very conversational, and they're able to kind of take, is it a special event? Is it, how many in your party? But they're making those reservations, and half the time you don't even realize that you're not talking to a person with that. So I think the retail, the restaurants, also the restaurants with, you can order and then go pick it up, or you can order and have DoorDash to, bring it to your house. So I think they've all made big strides with it. I can think of things within healthcare. I think healthcare has really come a long way with how they're making their diagnostics on patients and their patient portals. And just over the 4th of July weekend, my son was sick, and we did I think it was Live MD or MD Live, where we went in the portal. We chatted with I'm sure it was a chat bot on what was going on with him. I took pictures of his throat. We uploaded them. And then that doctor called and we did like a video with the doctor. And then they sent the prescription over to Walgreens and I went over and picked it up. So I think there's lots of industries are really doing that, are starting to do this well, where we can learn from it. And I don't know if Adam or Amy or Bill have anything else to add, but that's kind of my
I have one from the retail side, kind of the retail side. It's the gyms, Old Gold's Gym. We wanted to move away from just being a quote meathead type environment where you had to be a perfectly chiseled individual to come work out at a Gold's Gym. And what we found was there was a lot of resistance in our customers to come in and talk to Atlas, the perfectly chiseled guy who's going to explain all the various programs and membership options we have. So we basically created a kiosk, and where the perfectly chiseled guy who can explain 6 different membership options to you. We decided that we would create a kiosk that only had 2, the $9.99 a month and the $19.99 a month. And we did some experimentation with it, but I mean, the $9.99 was black and white, had a few items that you got for $9.99 a month. The other side of the screen was $19.99 a month, and we had a lot of different things you can do, class participation, things like that. And we found that the kiosk had a better upsell than Atlas. And so we basically took the need to talk to someone. If you're out of shape and you don't look like the perfectly chiseled individuals that are inside our gyms, you don't have to talk to them. You could come in, swipe a driver's license, swipe a credit card, and you're working out. If you need something, you can go ask. But we found that there was a large segment of our target client base that did not want to talk to people about memberships. They just wanted to come in, swipe, and go. And that really took off well for us. So that's an example where we applied the technology and it actually turned out better than we thought.
That's a great example. I'm one of the guys that's swiping. I don't want to talk to Atlas. I can't relate to that.
I am too. I am not the poster child for Gold.
Hey, there's so many great points that you brought up, and we live in a digital world where, applied correctly, we don't strip the human dignity away from working with our organizations in the field. Let me ask you one last question. I'll open this up to the entire panel. As you think about what we've discussed, as you look at technology and trends in the industry, I'll ask each of you, what trends or advancements stand out in your mind of technology that has really adopted a good balance of that technology value and the human inclusion? Are there any trends that stand out or any advancements that are important to you in your business?
I mean, I think a trend that is really jumping out and really taking hold of all industries is, machine learning, AI, the learning language models that are being deployed now. The days of trying to put parentheses and plus signs around your search is a day of the past, right? Now you can go into a chat GPT and ask questions in a normal sentence, or how you would ask your neighbor, right? And so these are things that will change the connection that people have and the familiarity that they'll have with these types of tools. And that's going to continue to expand into every industry going forward. So I think, as we continue to embrace new technology, it will also unlock other potential things that we may not have seen. And if you go back in history and you think through this, especially in the world of financial services, when the ATM came out, the automated teller machine, everybody, every teller thought, I will never have a job again. It's going to replace me. Well, here we are, many years later, and that hasn't really happened, but it's now an automation that people just expect. So there are things, needing to go into a gas station and pay before you actually pump. And who does that anymore, right? So this automation changes. When you go to Walmart and you check out now, you check out through a kiosk. You don't really stand through a line. So these automations will really change I would say the acceptance across the industry. And I think, learning language models and AI is just one of those examples that will continue to push various industries in the future.
Totally agree.
I would probably add to that and kind of play off what Adam was talking about. Basically, the key driver in being able to make things automatically make decisions or possibly enhanced through AI is the quality of your data. And so a lot of what our focus is trying to get a complete harness on our data, cleanse it so that the AI systems can make better decisions, and then utilize it for automation and some other customer experience. The example I would give is dynamic deposit limits. If you are a person, we have data on you in our bank and you've been with us for a while, and you keep an average balance of $10 a month and you bounce 3 checks a week and you deposit a $5,000 check, we may give you access to a portion of that, but not all of it. And we may hold the rest of that balance for a couple of days. If you have multi-million dollars on deposit with us, you've never bounced checks and you deposit a $5,000 check, we may just allow the entire $5,000 available to you today, right now. And the reason is we have data on you and we can help make those decisions and adjust our deposit limits dynamically once a month by looking at our internal data and enhancing the customer experience based on the type of customer you are and the risk involved. That's a lot of what we're basing some of our customer experience modifications or changes to is, what do we know about our customer? What data do we have on them? Specifically the data we have, not necessarily outside sources all the time, just what we have on. So it'd be more applicable to longer term clients. But that's just another example of kind of playing what Adam was saying. We will use AI, we will use those kind of technologies, but we really feel like we got to clean our data up before it gets to where it's going to be very, very useful for us.
Foundational. Love it.
And I'll play off that because mine was going to be AI driving to personalization, right? So it's essentially what Adam and Bill have talked about. And that personalization, I love the example that Bill's given. That's our dream state. But also things like just understanding, signals, right? When somebody seems, what, we should send them a note about, right? Letting someone know that we think, rather than waiting until they've incurred an NSF fee or some other fee, looking at the data and saying, let's give them a heads up that they should, like they're getting close, right? They'd rather get that warning ahead of time than the fee and the bounce check and all the other issues afterwards. And so trying to get ahead of things like that. And then that can also be around some financial, hey, you have the opportunities, like Ally does an amazing job with, hey, you could save, they're setting you up to say, do you want to move this money to savings, right? We've identified, we don't think you're going to spend this month, right? That's amazing. And the opportunity to do that sort of stuff is just, going to be a great future state.
Love that. Love that. Margaret, anything stand out to you?
I mean, I agree with everything that Adam and Amy and Bill have talked about. AI is going to be huge. I think adding emotion and having AI understand emotion and sentiment and being able to key off of that and be proactive is going to be huge. I think a trend that's probably not going to go away is the human connections. I have kids in their 20s, and I was talking to them about this the other day, and they were saying, especially in financial services, they were saying that they don't mind doing everything completely digital, but if it's a really complex, like the first time they're buying their car, the first time they're buying their house, they actually want to sit and talk to somebody, whether it's through video, whether it's through chat, that they want to totally understand the process, understand what to expect, and then they'll go do it. Like, they don't mind doing it digitally, but I think there are some things where you are still going to have those human touch points along the way, with especially with financial services. But AI, human-centered design, I think all that stuff is going to be big.
Well, you guys are obviously experts in the industry, expert practitioners, advisors, thank you so much. I have one last ask, and I'd like to go across the panel, and I'll just thank the audience for all the questions that you've put into the chat. Hopefully we've answered the majority of those. And if we haven't, make sure you reach out to the panelists directly. I know that they appreciate that and they're glad to answer those questions as well. But, as we come to the end of the session, I'd like to ask for a closing statement from each of you. As you think about the topic that we've talked about today, what advice would you give to the audience? And Margaret Ann, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, as we talked about, as you're doing this, it is all about communication with your employees, with departments. I have found success in bringing in legal and fraud and security and my IT architects and everybody in at one time and getting them talking about it. I think the more buy-in you get and the more kind of that cross collaborations between departments, it will make your lives easier as you're trying to implement this.
And Amy, what would you say? Thank you, Margaret Ann.
I know the folks here are longstanding professionals as well. So I think it's the keeping the customer in focus, and we touched on this, but really when we think about the making sure as we look at these processes and are improving them for our customers, that we're taking them all the way back so that we're not creating a mess on the back end, because then that tends to show through, right? So understanding that while we're focused on that customer experience, we have to think about what happens all the way through the process.
Love it. Bill, what's your perspective?
I think with the environment we're in right now, the regulatory hornet's nest has been whacked and they're flying around us. And so we've got to think about how we automate and better utilize our data, as well as the automation, so that the customer experience is not only enhanced, but also the automation internal gives regulators comfort that we're managing things and managing our client base better. It's just a unique environment right now. And I would say the automation facing our employees is not a threat. It's probably them demanding it. And I think it also dictates and allows us to prepare to scale within an environment to where distressed banks may be available to consolidate. Well, we want to have that automation in place and use data to help automate things such as decisioning or modeling or other things that we may be doing manually via a spreadsheet. We've got to eliminate that and get prepared to scale and consolidate. And so I'd say that's really the focus of where I see the industry right now. The regulatory demands are going way up. We have whole new reports. We have whole new automation demands. And so we're having to use everything we got to try and do that. And it's not about increasing employees feel that they're threatened. They don't. They're overwhelmed and they demand the automation to enhance the client experience. So that's kind of the generalities. I mean, I'm talking at a high level there, but that's a lot of what we're focused on right now in this environment.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's a great perspective. Adam?
My advice to anybody listening is ultimately don't wait, just start. Get out there and start doing it. My team is looking at how my team serves internal stakeholders. So what we're trying to think through is how can we use this technology and to help automate and serve my stakeholders and customers better. If I can help internally help them identify data or improve the response rates to questions, that ultimately helps push things along. And to Bill's point, they're asking for this. They're asking for this help fast. They want to move quickly. And so my advice is don't sit there and wait for things to come together. Find areas and ways and pockets of opportunities for you to start iterating. iterate, learn, and innovate from there. Just continue to move and move. And to Bill's point, like the regulatory aspect will come around. I mean, anytime you implement a model today, there's a fair amount of regulatory scrutiny, even internally, before those go into production. But automate as much as you can internally, test it internally, learn more that you can, enhance your data. And as the regulatory area comes around, you and your company will be ready to move forward and move fast, because you now have a skill set and understanding of how to launch and deploy these types of tools.
That. And, as we talk about technology, when done right, not only should it be something we're thinking about in the technology teams, it should be in the business teams, it should be in the CFO office. If done right, automation should create more jobs, right? It shouldn't eliminate them. It should make room for people to climb the ladder and do higher valued work because the systems are helping. And I think your perspectives today have just been tremendous. So Adam, Bill, Amy, thank you so much for being with us. Margaret Ann, thank you too for your perspective and for your sponsorship. In fact, Margaret Ann, is there anything that you would add just in closing?
No, I want to thank Adam and Amy and Bill for joining us today. I want to thank everybody that's on the webinar for their time and your questions. And I encourage y'all, if there's questions that you have, you want to continue conversations, please reach out to us. Please go to our Evolve webpage, evolveconsulting.com, or follow us on LinkedIn. But thanks again for joining today with us.
Thank you, Margaret Ann. And thank you, Richard Kennedy and Mark Hamill from our Architect Global for creating the forum. We're grateful for this community growing stronger, and we look forward to seeing you on the next CX community event for North America. Stay tuned for that to be announced, and we'll see you then. Until then, have a great weekend. Happy Friday, and we'll see you later. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.